Ketch from Old Crow Medicine Show, and you're listening to Native Americana Radio with Ketch Secor. God bless everybody and stay safe out there.
Ketch, I found this in the back of a trunk. I bought a 67 Newport Chrysler, and it was in the trunk. They said that a shaman owned the truck. It was hit by a bear, but the bear wasn't hurt. It had a big bear dent in the car. And it's kind of a magical transistor now. It dials up off the grid Native Americana. And your name came on it today, you know, like I have no control over this thing. And so you came up on the dial today. So welcome to the Native American Audio Cafe. Welcome to people, talk to the people a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I also, I feel a spiritual transistor radio has connected me to you, Ketch Secor, and I'm so glad to be in your presence in the virtual realm, but especially in the spiritual realm. So blessings to you, and thanks for bringing us together in these strange but beautiful times.
How have you been writing? How are you coping out with this?
I'm writing a lot and singing and meeting a lot of people virtually and staying positive, happy to see the return of migratory species to Nashville, Tennessee, seeing, smelling things in the air that I haven't smelled ever in 20 years in this town. Just trying to notice the small things and making do with little.
Yeah, a lot of musicians I know are kind of introverted anyways, and a lot of our musicians are used to the struggle, you know, and so these are kind of blessing times, you know. That's what a lot of the elders are saying, that it's a blessed time for us, and it's time for us to reflect and kind of come out of this cocoon a little bit, you know, and so it's good to see you today.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and it's really great to be connected with Indian country. That's a real blessing to me. And ever since I've circled the wagons with you again, after knowing you 20 years ago when I was just a teenager, and kind of finding you again just a couple of summers ago up in the Twin Cities, I've felt a reinvigoration of the part of me that's always wanted to be in Indian country and to travel to those places, and also to look for Indian country right here in the Southeast, which is sometimes a hard thing to do. Forced Indian removal was really effective stuff. And so, but everywhere I go, every tree, every hill, every river has a different name. And as a musician, I feel closer to knowing that name, even as a white kid.
They say if you stand in a puddle of water long enough, even rubber boots will leak. You know, the spirit of America has permeated into our souls. And so I think this is what you're feeling, you know, and these are the roots of Native Americana music, I always say, is part of a genre of the earth, you know, and I'm letting the artists define it and weave the tapestry. What would your definition of that be, Native Americana?
Well, I guess I would think about artists like you and multi-instrumentalist, and then I would think about Buffy St. Marie and Pete LaFarge singing "Coyote, My Little Brother," and I think that the native voices are such an important part of the greater story of American popular music. And I live here in Nashville, so I play country music primarily, and Americana is a genre that's sort of come about within the time of my being here in Nashville. Before, we called it alt country, and it came from Chicago and Minneapolis. We didn't claim it here in Nashville, but then the Americana thing kind of took off, and so we're in a business town here. We like to lay claim to things, so I play this. This is my instrument, and I I know that that this instrument is something that's really important to the story of North America. You know, I know that when the voyageurs came through Bois Fort, that they brought this from the islands like Orkney and the Hebrides and north of Scotland, and they played tunes and they left an impression on the land, and that impression is still there. And so when I play instruments, I feel a kind of touchstone to a spirit that's right underneath the ground. I feel that this is a conjuring device.
That's a great definition of it. I think it is. It's kind of an interspecies communication kind of a thing, like a turtle or something like that.
Mm.
It can communicate between species and its pitches and things. And when you're lost, it can help you find something. I think that instrument helped you find something.
It's like a dowsing rod. You know, you're looking for you know, subterranean water confluences. You know, I think about the way that they used to build fences out of stone in Ireland. They always put a little place at the base of the fence for the spirit to move through. I think that people forget that we're all tribal people. And instruments like this can help us rediscover all of our individual tribal identities, no matter what tribes we're from.
I think it's really important. And people knew a lot about the Celtic barrio of music and the Caribbean barrio, the African barrio, all these influences on America. But we know very little about the American Indian barrio. That was there, and that was here, and that is still here. And I think that's what we're doing. We're uncovering this. You could look at it, Keach, through obliteration, you know, a distortion of the truth, over romantification. All these devices kind of led us to, I wonder why the country people yodel, or are they mimicking vocable, meaningless vocables or something like that? You know, things influences beats and things, rock and roll beats. I think songwriting, I think that's where it's really affecting things. You know, when you write a song about the genre of the earth, which you do, talk about that.
But I appreciate that question so much, Keith. One of the ways that I feel as a songwriter in touch with traditions that stem from America's indigenous peoples are through language. So many of the most memorable songs in the English language. How about this one? Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you away, you rolling river. I mean, if you were to, that sounds like Indian country to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean is it brings chills when we put it in this way. It's like quantum prayers coming down, you know, and each time we answer one of these prayers, we answer with a poem or a song or a piece of love or something like that. And I think that's what I'm talking about, that influence, that lost influence. It's a beautiful influence.
Our language is really an important way to connect here in the Southeast because of the story of, you talked about the obliteration of America's indigenous populations in this region of the country where I'm calling from today, is so profound that in some ways the language is what remains. But the language is coded and is a mystery. Every time Johnny Cash sings about Tennessee, he's singing a mysterious word, a Cherokee word that means something that Johnny Cash doesn't know, and that the listeners don't know either. But that doesn't mean that the word is not magic to utter it. And you could say it in a bureaucratic sense. I mean, when the state condemns a man to die, they do it in the name of Tennessee. And so it can be a terrible word. But whatever the word is, it's not really ours to understand in this variation of the American story. I think they're magic words. I think they reach into, you're talking about like the quantum physics of interspatial time and physics. When I sing words like "O Shenandoah," I think about the time when buffalo were moving in the east. I think about the time in which a squirrel could swing from tree to tree and get all the way across the Mississippi River from the Chesapeake Bay. And so language has a way of revealing a deep and beautiful mystery, at the same time as being a powerful tool of obliteration. It can also liberate and save.
I think also, Keith, when you talk about the over-romantification of the pentatonic scale, like in the tomahawk chop and things like that, where people kind of don't think Native people are here. Sometimes I think it's easier to teach our history from today backwards. And that's kind of what you're doing today, talking about the migrating birds coming up to Nashville, the new songs that they bring and things like that. You could almost talk about things backwards. You could talk about the American history in the Nashville area. Let's talk about that. What tribes were there?
Well, the word Tennessee is I believe, a Cherokee word, and certainly this region of the country was crisscrossed by Cherokee peoples and also by Chickasaw peoples, and also from the north by Shawnee peoples. So there isn't a specific claim on Nashville by a particular tribe that I'm aware of. My understanding, and I learned this from a songwriter named John D. Loudermilk, who wrote the song, "Abilene, Abilene, prettiest town I've ever seen," among many other wonderful tunes. John D. Loudermilk was a really spiritual guy, and he believed that there had been a prophecy among indigenous peoples that a town, that Nashville would be discovered, and that a fire exists beneath it. And in the spiritual realm, I think about songwriters like John Prine, who we just lost to COVID-19 a couple of weeks ago. And John had a way of dipping his pen way down deep into that magma and pulling it up for us to see. The great songwriters can do that, and the rest of us can mimic it.
Even his words, Lake Marie, is a wonderful story. Like they found two white girls in the woods, and just another cat who really got this, and was Johnny Cash, and he covered Peter LaFarge. A lot of people don't even know who Peter LaFarge is. Will you tell them a little bit?
Well, I wish I knew more about Pete LaFarge, but I listened a lot to the music of Pete Seeger and Tom Paxton and Phil Oakes, and these artists who really came of age at the Newport Folk Festival. And Pete LaFarge came from the Southwest and represented indigenous communities during the folk revival in a way that, and then wrote that wonderful song about the ballad of Ira Hayes, who raised the flag at Iwo Jima.
And then tell us about Johnny's version.
Well, Johnny had this wonderful album that I think has been kind of a gateway for white America's understanding of the story of Red America, and it's called Bitter Tears. And this is an album in which, it's got, on the cover of it, Johnny's got his fist up, AIM style. It's like a Russell Means kind of vibe, Leonard Peltier, and he's got the headband on just like you, and he's got face paint on and makeup, and he covers songs that reflect. He does a song about Custer that's called "The Gentlemen Don't Ride Here Anymore." He kind of flips the story on its head, and instead of country music's tendency to aggrandize the story of the horsemen, he takes the story of of the native peoples. But recently I was talking with Johnny Cash's son, who is a friend of mine, John Carter Cash, and John told me, because I was asking him about that record, and John Carter Cash said that before Johnny died, he took what was then a brand new blood test, to get your genotype and your ancestry.com type stuff, and he was so disappointed to learn that he had no American Indian blood, not any. And his son expressed something beautiful about how we are all so connected, that sometimes there's something even thicker than blood, and it's a spirit. And Johnny Cash he's clearly the country music voice in indigenous communities, but he's 100% white guy from Arkansas.
Well, it breaks our heart, it breaks my heart a little bit, but not my spirit. It makes it stronger, and it makes that whole fortification of the heart stronger too. He was such a strong brother and uncle, grandfather, father. So, everybody has faults, and you never know when you're going to need kindness. So we better be nice to each other now, so. It was a beautiful songs that he wrote. And I always thought that, or he covered that, the essence of Native Americana is like him singing Pocahontas by Neil Young. It's a definitely cross kind of thing. You got something there.
Aurora Borealis, the icy skies at night, shadows dip the water in a long and lonely fright, from the white man to the fields of green, and the homeland we've never seen.
Exactly, the images, the topical thing, like somebody says, what is this concept? I say, it's kind of like a Americano, only call it Native Americano. I put a little feather design of whipped cream in there, or a chief thing. And a lot of it is humor. Even when I play humor and I sing like the song Fry Bread, I think which was we did with you, I say, a long time ago, fry bread was illegal. You couldn't eat fry bread, or you couldn't speak fry bread. So the good people of Nashville had these illegal fry bread gatherings once a year, and everybody was invited. No one was turned away. Pretty soon these gatherings, they grew and grew, and everybody wanted a piece of the fry bread. So the government, they played the federal government into passing some fry bread laws, like the Fry Bread Removal Act and the Trail of Grease. And they hired military people like Colonel Sanders and Captain Crunch to enforce the fry bread laws. But they couldn't keep the people down, because Born to the People was a fry bread messiah. Said, you can't trade much with 86 million acres of land except for maybe flour, sugar, lard, and salt. But that's another story. So I think the humor, you got to kind of have it, like, because you can get at some pretty deep things, like pretty depressing things too. And so it's kind of like lead people by, let them shoot a buffalo out of the window, but we're not going to stop there.
Well, I mean, it's like genocide is no laughing matter, but what is the human spirit in the face of that? I mean, we gotta, this is the time, this is our time. What are we going to do about the past? We're going to understand it. We're going to embrace it and learn from it. But, we wouldn't be human beings if we couldn't laugh. They're laughing in Rwanda right now. I mean, there's the ancestors of Jews killed in the pogrom are smiling ear to ear, rocking their babies to sleep. We survive. Our species are survivors, and we're all a kind of survivor. And humor and song and love and dance are the ways that help embolden us, that quicken our pulse, even though so much would say, give up, throw in the towel, man. But we just keep on smiling through our tears.
Wow. It's almost like so strong of words that I couldn't script these words from people that I've been hearing, and it's a real message of hope, of perseverance, of carrying on, and we look to people like you to light that torch, so we inspire people to pick up their instrument again. You have a song, another little song for us?
Been driving in my Indian car, pound of the wheels rolling in my brain. Dash is dusty, plates are expired. With Sister Officer, let me explain. I gotta make it to this powwow tonight. I'll be sober 49, down by the riverside, looking for the sugar, riding in our Indian car. Everybody! Hey, 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 yeah.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the cafe today.
Bye, Keith. God bless.
Bye. Good, brother. I'll give you a prayer. That was supercharged, you know. You're like this. I'll show you a picture of what you're like. Here, wait. Hummingbirds, they can depart like 2 weeks of story in 1 minute. You know, it takes, you can hear their little birds, they're humming, and it'll take you 2 weeks to unwind it, but they can give you that kind of a story in 10 seconds even, you know, like